Not looking good over here in the brush collection today. Let's see what this. Yeah, here we go. Old, tried and true. Tabletop Minions number 4. All right, good morning. Thanks for checking it out, folks. We are going to be painting some miniatures today. Here I have the 2 that are in progress. Let me see if I can get a better focus on that for you. Okay, so first I have progress on this wizard in blue. He's looking okay so far. He needs some definition back on his face. The ground needs to be painted in, and his skull needs to be painted in. And then we have our plague doctor here. Oh, she's looking really good so far. The skin of her hands or gloves, I haven't decided. Gloves probably makes more sense. That needs to be painted in, as well as this potion that she's holding. But otherwise, she's in pretty good shape as well already. After that, we'll be moving on to these 4 orc warriors. And they're in like this pretty cool hybrid armor of fur and leather and chainmail and plate. They have a lot of textures on them, which is always fun. So let's get into it. First off, thank you very much. Let's see if we can finish this lady up first. So the potion needs some sort of basic color here. She has 2 other ones on her pouch, a sort of yellowy one that maybe needs a highlight or something, and then a blue one. If she's got a green poison blade, my thought is maybe, make this the poison potion that she's dipping it into. But that may also kind of be something that detracts from how cool the green one was. So I paint them, I don't make them. These come from a company called Reaper. They're pre-made one-piece miniatures. And they have like 4,000 or 5,000 different designs, so you can find whatever you're excited about and paint it. Let's yes, let's not do the same green. Maybe we can do a dark green, or like a spooky teal color. So this is a plasmatic bolt. This is a very bright pink. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it over one of the elements that's already painted, and so it's just going to tint it. It's not going to be completely this color. And we'll just try and give this a bit of visual interest, tie it back to the other potions and sort of imply that they're all these cool tones and, you know, maybe slightly glowing. But you'll see here that same color over the whiter, brighter potion like this one. Right away, you get a much more saturated and vibrant blue tone. Because these paints are a bit transparent, you can really kind of force different effects depending on what you're applying them over. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. I hope you have a good one. Alright, she does need her gloves painted in, but I'm going to wait a little bit on that because I don't want to touch wet paint to wet paint over here. This pouch also needs some sort of basic color. So we'll grab good old-fashioned brown of some kind. Here is dark wood brown. It is a deep brown. And just a small touch of that. Alrighty, then we're just gonna pick that out. Easy enough. We'll probably reuse that color for the gloves here in a minute, but we're gonna let the potion in hand dry first a bit. I will take a dot of it and mix it in with the plasmatic bolt, that teal color, to create like a shadow tone on the potion, and put that on sort of the lower half here. Yeah, look at that. And then same thing right here on the underside of the neck of the bottle as well. A lot of folks will just put these speed paints on and let them be, and that's perfectly fine. But you can be a little bit more creative when you mix one or two of them together, either on your palette or on the figure, to create some different color variation. I'm also eating a Pop-Tart, so sorry about that. But shout out to chocolate chip, underrated flavor of Pop-Tart. Alrighty, so thank you for everyone who is here and who has liked it so far. If any of you have any painting projects of your own, I'd love to hear about them. Or if you want to get into miniature painting and have any questions, let me know. I teach classes in my area, so I have all the information that you need. Sorry, that's the paint mixer off camera. All right, next up, we're gonna add some color back into the skin on this wizard. It'll darken him a little bit, and it'll mostly just give us definition of his features. And we'll start on the face, we'll start on the top edge, and pull our way down. This is gonna add sort of a ruddy brown to the shadows and skin tone. This wizard has his feet out for some reason, so we also have to put the same color on his toes and hands. on the hand, I'm not going all the way to the fingertips because he's supposed to be holding this sort of ball of magic. I don't want to add too much darkness uh, in an area that's going to be, lit up in theory. So I'm mostly putting it by the sleeve, between the deep recesses of the fingers. Looking handsome. All right. He also has a couple of pouches and daggers and accessories, so we're just going to reuse that same uh, dark wood brown. Put that in here. This looks like some kind of wand or sword. I have too much water in my brush, that's why you can see it's running off into the recess there. Try to clean that up a bit, and if not, we'll sort of fade the brown into a natural shadow in this deep fold of the cloak, and it won't be too much of an issue. Try again over here on these pouches instead. Alrighty. We also have a skull here on the base, so we can hit that with some bone color. This one is pallid bone. It is a pale yellowish brown. You could also call this like a sepia tone. And so here's our first layer of that on the skull. Because these paints are transparent, wherever you have more paint, you're going to have a richer buildup of the color. So for example, in the eye sockets, they've taken a lot of darkness now because that paint is sitting on top of itself, and you're going to have more of that pigment stacked up and have a more deep, dark take on the same color. That's how the speed paints work. As they dry, they thin out a little bit and pull away from recesses and pull deeper into the shadows. And in the shadows, they'll appear darker because there's more paint, and on the surface edges, they'll appear lighter because the paint is thinner and lets more of the white undercoat show through. I'm not quite sure how they cooked that up chemistry-wise, but good on the folks at the Army Painter for figuring that out. So this is almost dry enough to paint the gloves on here. In the meantime, what else do we want to do here? He's looking okay. I may have to paint in his little sword wand thing with a regular paint instead of the speed paint, just because it's kind of deeply buried in there. And the ground itself, same thing, will be, we'll need some traditional acrylic paints, some gray and some brown and some white. But we're going to let him cook over here for a minute. And in the meantime, we'll start prepping a few of our orcs. We have 4 here, and in group, when you have multiples of the same figure like this, or the same style of figure, whether it's the same character or maybe similar characters with similar materials, right? So all of these guys have some combination of exposed skin, leather straps, fur, and metal, right? Like these guys in particular, you can see very different sculpts, very different proportions, but they have the same shoulder plate, same chainmail, and then the same skin exposed. I like to paint stuff like this in groups. This way I can more efficiently use the paint, right? I can use, okay, the same skin for everybody, the same leather and boots and everything. This way when you're playing against them, you get a sense of a group identity, right? What color fabric does this dungeon group use? What does that tell you about what's available to them? What color fur are they wearing? Is it all the same or is it different? What does that mean for their ability to you know, take advantage of existing populations? Um, are they hunting all of the same wolves and squirrels, or are they preying on traveling animals? All right, a little bit more breakfast, and then we'll get into it. All right, let's get back into it. So, before I dish out any paint, I'm going to take a moment, study the basic figure here, and determine what colors we need. Right, if these are classic fantasy orcs, we're going to use some combination of greens for the skin. I imagine the leather tones will be reds and browns to complement the green, and also just because it's quite a natural look. We could also do some black leather. Um, we have what I imagine are wooden shields with metal adornments. So again, more sort of browns and grays. And then the chainmail, of course, will be some form of silver or steel. Let's start with all the skin and we'll go from there. So, on the last goblins I did, they were mostly shamrock green. So I'm going to try and go a little uh, deeper, I suppose, for the orcs here. This is absolution green. I think this is a little too dark. But what are we going to do about that? We're going to do a one-to-one mix. Well, maybe not one-to-one, but we're going to mix absolution green and pallid bone. Pallid bone should add a little bit of yellow, a little bit of brown, and a little bit of lightness. It's not as rich and dark as the absolution green is. So we'll do 3 drops green, maybe 2 drops bone. Let's see where that takes us. 1, 2. The change is not particularly noticeable, but nothing wrong with that. Alrighty, let's paint one and see. So I'm gonna go right in on the face here. It's like a cooler green. It's got a lot more blue in it than the goblins did, which I think is a nice change. They were like a very yellowy green, almost like radioactive looking. And then, yeah, we'll just find any more chunks of exposed skin and work our way around. This is going to spill over on places. That is sort of the nature of speed paints. But you can take a damp brush and just sort of wick that away a bit. There we go. Now just move on to the hand. And we'll just keep progressing around the figure in this in this fashion. We're going to paint from the inside out. So we're going to paint the skin first, and then sort of the next layer, whether that's the clothes or the chainmail, whatever is going to be difficult to reach. So we're not making too many mistakes and over painting. Got some elbow over here that needs paint. And both of their shins. For anyone that's watching, let me know if this camera angle works for you. For the last couple of weeks, I've instead been streaming more of me and my face and like painting from the side, so you can see a little bit of the painting, but I can also, look at the chat and discuss a little bit better. But I feel like this conveys the actual activity more clearly. So if anybody would like to comment on that, I'd appreciate any help I can get. All right, that's the skin on one, and we just go down the line. Anything that's going to be metal, I'm not worried about splashing over on, but I will be more careful on anything that's going to be fur or fabric. And same thing as we spill over on the haft of the spear here, just wick some of that away. No problems at all. It looks like this one's wearing full-length pants. Or does he just have boots with a high cap? I think it's just boots. The knee plate here is throwing me off, but I think it is skin. Just paint that in as well real quick. Hey there, welcome in. Yeah, we're just sharing an activity, nothing too crazy. Easy enough. 2 more to go. Let's stop and grab some water real quick. Damn. Yep. Yeah, we'll definitely be doing some, let me see. So here's a leathery brown I was working on earlier. And this one needs some finishing touches as well. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some yellow and brown and pink tones in there. keep going on the skin on these four. Do you paint your own stuff? Always happy to hear about other people's painting projects. Okay, nice. I've painted a little bit of 40K. Um, Back in high school, I had a small Chaos Army, but I don't play anymore. But I do have some Necrons when that, was it Indomitus? Whatever, 2 editions ago, when it was the Primaris and the Necrons, somebody gave me the Necrons pretty cheap, so I painted those up, and that was a fun project. I did them with like a really dry, like Martian orange base. They came out pretty sharp. Let's see. Looks good. Mostly do guard. Okay, cool. That's a really varied force, right? Because you get all the troops, and then you can get some big vehicles. Let's see. I gotta mix up a little bit more skin tone. Yeah, for jobs, I paint a lot of historical armies, so I feel you on the infantry. I've painted a bunch of like Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II. Just a lot of guys in uniforms. All right. Making a bit of a mess on this one, but it's all right. Tidy it up a bit. Yeah, these Reaper sets are always a fun project because you just get so much variety, and the stakes are pretty low. There's no, set color scheme for any of this, so you can just kind of paint what you find interesting for that day and still come away with something that looks pretty good. Thanks, I appreciate it. Have a good day. All right, we got our skin on. Let's take a minute. Think about our next stage of attack here. Let's go back to our first guy. Oh, focus on him is pretty bad. Sorry about that. So our options. Internally, the chainmail is buried in there pretty far. However, if I paint the chainmail and I spill it, it's going to be a bit of a pain to tidy up. So I may, in fact, start with the fabric of the skirt here. That's technically a lower layer than the chainmail, even if it is a little bit more accessible. Paint that first, and then hit the chainmail over it. These shoulder panels also, they look like fur, not chainmail, which is kind of tedious. I think we'll do them as well at the same time with this skirt fabric. All right. So this is one of my favorite speed paints right now. It's called Murder Scene. It's a bit gruesome, but it's a black purplish red. And what that means is that it just it does everything. It can be a shadow color. It's not too warm, but it still has some noticeable red in it. So it'll be like a strong contrast to the skin on these orcs without, being an NFL team level of contrast, right? We don't want to do green and pure red without being prepared for those high contrast consequences. But this murder scene is, um, it's just a bit more tame and it's going to fit very well, I think. So we will start, we'll try to paint them in the same order this time. This way everything dries at the same time. Let's keep going. I do have to be careful that I don't make the fur too light, or they're going to look a little Santa Clausy. Um, that is a challenge with any fur trimmed red items like this. But if I do a black fur or a gray fur, it should be okay. We'll just tidy that up a little bit as we go. Continue working our way around the figure. The brush needs a little bit more water. I think that works. Jeebers. Turn off those notifications. That's getting pretty tedious. Alright, and down the line. Clean out the brush. And same thing, go in and just pick out that And so, something, you know, to think about if you are doing all of this painting yourself and you're the GM is what does it mean that these guys all wear the same colors, right? Does that imply that they are a like a uniformed force? That's a a marauding band or an army that is cohesive? Is it just the only color that they have access to? Is it the only local dye or the only local fabric that they could find or buy or salvage? Right. You could very easily paint these guys in um, a whole variety of unique skin and clothes colors and make them a bit more disjointed, or imply that they have their own, unique personality. But by keeping them all together like this, I'm sort of implying that it's a deliberate choice that they all are cohesive. This one's a bit weird. It has more fabric comparatively, so I'm gonna try and pick that out now as well, even though it does contradict the whole inside out painting method we were discussing. Just work our way around the figure. Gotta work out a better camera stand that isn't like in my face while we're painting, but that's a problem for another time. I know some folks will do like an overhead camera and then a front facing one, but for now, all of this is coming directly from my phone. So the options are pretty limited. I'm not a professional at the streaming part of this by any means. And I'm not really trying to be. Just sharing this and chatting for fun to keep me on focus, keep me sitting and painting rather than plugging the PlayStation in. Gonna take a break here for a minute. Let me see how I add one of those Q&As. Video, green highlight, green screen, no. Stickers. Q&A. Alrighty. Take a sip of water and get back to it. Nice. Alrighty. One more to go. Unfortunately, I have got to refill the palette a bit. Too wet. Let's try again. Yeah, this is an awkward spot to get. Okay. So, elements we have left. We have fur, metal, wood, the boots, and the ground. The boots with the fur. With the fur. The whole club was looking at her. I'm glad nobody was here to hear that. That was not very funny. Pop tart break again. 1 minute. That may be it for streaming today, folks. I kind of want this camera out of my face. But I appreciate everyone who came through and chatted today. Yeah, it's been a good time. I appreciate it. Thanks again.